and the conduct of an audit in accordance with standards on auditing. Scope of this essay. The standard on auditing establishes the independent auditor's overall responsibilities when conducting an audit on financial statements in accordance with essays. Specifically, it sets out the overall objectives of the independent auditor and explains the nature and scope of an audit designed to enable the independent auditor to meet those objectives. It also explains the scope, authority, and structure of this and includes requirements establishing the general responsibilities of the internal auditor applicable in all audits, including the obligation to comply with the essays. The independent auditor is referred to as the auditor hereafter. Essays are written in the context of an audit of financial statements by an auditor. They are to be adapted as necessary in the circumstances when applied to audits of other historical financial information. An audit of financial statement. The purpose of an audit is to enhance the degree of confidence of intended users in the financial statement. This is achieved by the expression of an opinion by the auditor. This is achieved by the expression of an opinion by the auditor on whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Able to form an opinion. The financial statements subject to audit are those of the entity prepared and presented by the charged with governance. These do not impose responsibilities that govern their responsibilities. However, audit with essays is conducted on the premise that management and where appropriate those charged with governance have responsibilities that are fundamental to the conduct of the audit. The audit of the financial statements does not relieve management or those charged with governance of those responsibilities. As the basis for the auditor's opinion, essays require the auditor to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance. It is obtained when the auditor has obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence to reduce audit risk. Audit risk, that is the risk that the auditor an inappropriate audit opinion when the financial statements are materially misstated to an acceptably low level. However, reasonable assurance is not an absolute level of assurance because there are inherent limitations of an audit which result in most of the audit evidence on which the auditor draws conclusions and bases the auditor's opinion being persuasive rather than conclusive. The concept of materiality is applied by the auditor both in planning and performing the audit and in evaluating the effect of identified misstatements, if any, on the financial statements. Essay 320 Materiality in Planning and Performing an Audit and Essay 450 Evaluation of Misstatements Identified During the Audit. In general, misstatements including omissions are considered to be material. Individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of users taken on the basis of the financial statements. Judgments about materiality are made in the light of surrounding circumstances and are affected by the auditor's perception of the financial information needs of users of financial statement and by the size or nature of misstatement or a combination of both. The auditor's opinion deals with the financial statements as a whole and therefore the auditor's detection of misstatements that are not material to the financial statements as a whole. 7th point. The standards on auditings contain objectives, requirements and application of other explanatory material that are designed to support the auditor in obtaining reasonable assurance. The essays require that the auditor exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the planning and performance of the audit and among others identify and assess risk of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, based on an understanding of the entity and its environment, including the entity's internal control. Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about whether material misstatements exist through designing and implementing appropriate responses to the assessed risk. Form an opinion on the financial statements based on conclusions drawn from the audit evidence obtained. The form of opinion expressed by the auditor will depend upon the applicable financial reporting framework. Form of opinion expressed will depend upon the financial reporting framework and any applicable laws or regulations. The auditor may also have certain other communication and reporting responsibilities to users, management, those charged with governance,